Hey gang, Sean for the Good Dog. We've had some technical and some non-technical difficulties here. Primarily it's always a challenge framing myself because I've got to get up and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and I'm not exactly the most technically minded dude. You can see we've had our 6 shot spelled wrong. They still don't got my name wrong. We still don't have my name right. Is that Sean Cassidy from like the 70s? They're trying to age me. Anyways, spilled, you can judge by this, about half of this right down the front of me, just about 2 minutes ago. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like I peed my pants. The shirt, somewhat dry, shoes soaked, but mainly it's the pants, the chair, the everything. It's all soaked. I was reaching over to move the computer around, and disaster befell me. So, I still have a little water left. Maybe what I need is a sippy cup. You know, those cool ones that you had when you were really little, the sippy cups that had like a weight in the bottom, and they would just like kind of like bounce like this, or like kind of, lean back and forth, and you couldn't really spill them. That might be something that I need to look into for shooting these. Anyways, Sean from the Good Dog, how are all you guys doing? It's so good to see you back. Been doing these kind of like these separate ones with Laura at her place and me here. So it's a different vibe, but it's kind of fun. We get to do our own thing and kind of like we spread our wings and see what happens. We don't have anybody to like catch us if we fall, if we say something stupid or get stuck somewhere, and there's no safety net. So we're out on that high wire for you guys. No safety net. Something stupid goes down, we don't really shoot. We don't really shoot over again. I don't know if we've ever reshot a question. I think everything has gone out as is, which is kind of a cool trivia thing because I don't think I've ever shared that before. So we're not like super nitpicky and manhandling this edit. It pretty much is like what you see is what you get. Sometimes we say smart things and sometimes the smart things elude us. So let's pray that today is a smart thing. All right, I want to wrap with you guys about some stuff before we jump in too far into the show. Okay, so I leave for New Orleans Saturday, which means by the time this gets posted, if all goes to my calculations correctly, or all go with my calculations, if all go with my calculations correctly, that means that if I get up really early and Laura's already got this edited, then I can get this sent out to you guys before I hop the plane. Because I think I'm flying out pretty early Saturday morning. So, fingers crossed, when you watch this and you hear me saying, I'm leaving for Nola, I'll hopefully already be on the plane headed there. Now, why am I going there? Anybody's been paying attention, you know, it's because I'm doing the audiobook there. I'm recording the audiobook and I've been working on it and tweaking it, and it's gonna be so badass, guys. I'm not just saying that to like promote and get you guys excited. I'm excited. Wrote a new piece of content for it today. That's something that doesn't exist anywhere else. I'm gonna write at least another one, maybe 2. So there'll be like 2 to 3 new like chapters or elements of the audiobook that won't exist anywhere else, which makes it pretty special, pretty unique. And then what I'm looking to do is at the end, I think, of each chapter or each piece or each article is kind of dive into more details, get like multi-dimensional on it, and really kind of like see if I can better explain, better articulate, just dive deeper, because the book is written, I'm really proud of it, and the concepts are really solid and really strong, but you're trying to stay limited and you're trying to stay poetic if you can. So what this will allow me is that after I read each article, I'll be able to jump in and be like kind of in a more less fancy style. I'll just be able to be like, yeah, so when I was working with this dog, what we did was this and this and this, and here was the big challenge, and da-da-da-da, and or here's where this idea came from. It was when we had this dog, you know, McGillicuddy, who came in, and he was the biggest challenge, and we had to find our answers, or he brought this out in us. So I think it's going to be something really special. I'm very excited about doing it down in New Orleans because, you know, I love being down there. It always brings out, I think, the best in me. But the guy I'm doing it with is fab. He's going to be super awesome. And he's never done a book quite like this, so this will be adventurous for him as well. So a lot of adventure and tightrope walking. The digital version came out, by the time you see this, it's probably been about a week. And it is selling like hot cakes. So I had no idea because I don't read digital books. So I don't have a Kindle or anything like that. So I read old school physical books and then I do audiobooks. Those are kind of my two things. But I know a lot of folks like digital stuff, and especially because you don't have to deal with any kind of shipping or anything like that. So if you're overseas, you're far away, whatever, you get to, you know, the actual cost of the digital is less. Plus, you get to skip out on the shipping, which makes it a win-win. But like they have been selling, like hotcakes, more than I think we anticipated they'd be selling like. So that's super cool and exciting. Testimonials have been coming in. I'm collecting them. I've got some ideas about how I want to share them with everybody. But the testimonials are like pretty wild and crazy. You know, it's not just like, oh, nice dog training book, but like, people are calling it like the best dog training book they've ever read about like the relationship between their dogs and themselves and how to negotiate it and how to better understand it and how to put the pieces together and how to problem solve. And so like that was the big goal. So super excited. I know that won't be the case for everybody, but there's a big outpouring, if you will, of folks that are really smitten, really taken with it, and just it's just been so crazy. You know, when you release a book, you have no idea how it's going to do, especially when you self-release it and you don't have like, you know, Simon and Schuster behind you or anything like that. So anyways, digital is going awesome. Audio is coming down the pike very soon, and that promises to be really exciting. Let's see what else is going on. Lots of challenging dogs here and in New Orleans. So you've seen lots of videos. Just posted up the Teddy video that got a lot of people's attention. The main point of that video was really to share a nervous, freaked out, aggressive, mistrustful dog, and using tools that everybody has been telling everybody that will listen. Anybody who's been, you know, from the pure positive camp or force-free camp has been telling everybody else that those tools will ruin the dog, will ruin your dog, will ruin the relationship, will diminish trust, will undermine trust, will set the dog back, will create learned helplessness, will create a, you know, it goes on and on and on. And that's why I wanted to post the Teddy video, because I wanted people to see exactly, like you get to see the arc, you get to see him looking dangerous, unsure, uncomfortable, worried, and then slowly arcing his way out of it. It's pretty fabulous to see. So I'm hoping that video helps open some eyes up and helps maybe some owners see some possibilities, but also open their minds up to different tools and methods and things like that. Beyond that, me and Jeffrey Gelman, you can't call him Jeffrey, only I can. The UK seminar is coming up, leaving on the end of June for looks to be about 2 weeks. We had a whole bunch of pressure. If anybody follows me on Instagram stories, you know we had a whole bunch of pressure, a whole bunch of shenanigans go down, and you know, we ended up losing one of the locations that we were at because the UK Kennel Club applied so much pressure to this. We were renting a spot, applied so much pressure to the people that owned it, that were renting it out, that they actually said they pulled the plug because they couldn't take the heat. So we have moved it. We have found and moved it to an undisclosed location that is private, awesome, and no one's going to know where it's at. So we're not even releasing the address to anybody that's coming until it's time for them to show up. So like Jeff said, anytime Sean and me, meaning Jeff and myself, head over to the UK, it's going to be like a special ops mission. And this has truly been like a special ops mission. It's been wild and crazy. So anyways, that's a little bit about what's going on. Some exciting stuff. Team in LA is rocking. Girls are just kicking so much butt. Team in New Orleans, kicking so much butt. I've been trying to post up lots of videos showing everybody doing the work, and I just couldn't be more proud of where everybody's at. It's really fabulous stuff. So with that, let's jump into the show. I scared Mandy with that. It's okay. Hey everybody, it's Sean from The Good Dog, and I always mess up the intro. And to my left, it's weird because things have changed, right? So there's nobody that's, you can give me a break. All right, let me try it again. Hey everybody, it's Sean from The Good Dog, and nowhere near me is a co-host of any sort, except for maybe Manny over there. All the stuff you can't see, Manny, and not really much else, makes up The Good Dog's Q&A Saturday, episode number 137. Boom. So that's that. And with that, I'd like to have Laura Morgan do a little bit of reading of question number 1.
Hey guys, sorry for the weird lighting. I am, the baby's trying to sleep, but it's not working. So, question number 1 comes from Daryl. Daryl says, I need help with a major whining issue. It's the worst at feeding time and in the morning when he wants out of his crate, but he will also whine while in place. I've tried waiting it out, prong collar corrections, e-collar corrections, bonker. I just can't seem to fix the issue. For what it's worth, the bonker does seem to have the best effect, but he does still keep whining, just not as loudly and frequently as the other corrections. I've gone as high as 40 on the e-collar. 30 is usually plenty for any other type of correction with him. Should I try going significantly higher? For some reason, when I use the e-collar to correct whining, it just makes it worse. He freaks out, whines even more, breaks place, etc. Thanks.
Okay, gang, so Mr. Soggy Pants, aka yours truly. Literally, I'm soaked from head to toe. You can't see it totally, but like it's in my shoes, it's in my pants, it's in my shirt, and luckily it's not on my hat or I'd really have a panic attack. Anyways, okay, so we've got Daryl, and Daryl's been having some struggles with whining issues. And even when he's been doing corrections, he's been trying to address the whining issues, and he's still been struggling. He's tried, I think, if I'm not mistaken, prong collar, e-collar, bonker. His kind of take on it was that the bonker helped a little bit more than the others, but that the dog was still whining, so he was still kind of stuck. So he also said that he'd been correcting. I wonder if he gave me the actual. I think he did at some other point of the of his question, but I think he said 30 or 40 was where he'd corrected for the whining stuff. Now, here's the deal, Daryl, and anybody else listening. 30 or 40 for some dogs might be significant. 10 might be significant. 5 might be significant. 2 might be significant. 30 or 40 might not be. It really depends on the dog. The dog is the only one that knows anything about any of this. The e-collar doesn't know anything. That number doesn't mean anything. The only one it means anything to is the dog. So, for me, knowing that you've only been up to around 30 or 40 on the e-collar, and this isn't like, bonanza of like, let's go out and correct dogs at the highest levels possible, but it sounds like Daryl's done a lot of good work trying to address in different methods, different approaches, different tools, how to get his dog into a better space. I'm sure Daryl's doing training, I'm sure he's doing exercise and walking his dogs. I assume all that great stuff because just about everybody that writes in here knows the rules and they know what's necessary to keep a dog in a good space, so they're not asking unfair stuff. So what I'm going to suggest to Daryl might be a little bit hard for some folks. If you've watched us, you've heard us recommend some higher level corrections at times. So 30 or 40, not a big deal. There are dogs, and you don't say what e-collar you're on, but I'm going to assume the mini educator because it's like pretty much what everybody's using. There are dogs that use the mini educator and top out on it in certain circumstances, certain contexts, certain environments where things are just so intense up here that nothing else matters. They just completely tune it out. So I don't want you to get caught up on those numbers of that 30 or 40 being extreme, because they might seem extreme to you, but in the moment with your dog, when your dog is in this whiny, like I want, it just might not be enough to inhibit, curb, stop, diminish, whatever the problem is. So what I'd like you to do, and this is hard stuff, but what I'd like you to do, seeing as you've done all the other stuff, if you were like, yeah, my dog's whining, this is not the advice I'd give you. But because you've tried everything else, this is the advice I would give you, which is roll up high on the e-collar, and as soon as you hear your dog whine, press and hold for 2 to 3 seconds. Sounds terrible. I know everybody's like, oh my God, that's horrific. A dog that whines constantly, consistently, incessantly, not only drives the owner crazy and diminishes their relationship, but it's also a dog that's not comfortable. So this is the part where people get confused. They just think that the whining dog is, he just needs more of this or more of that. Sometimes dogs just get locked into cycles of like, this is what I do. This is what, maybe it's been reinforced somewhere. Maybe it just feels like a nice outlet. It doesn't matter. It's not what happy, comfortable, healthy dogs do. So if we've all been following Q&A Saturdays and been following our posts and things like that, we know that correcting / punishing is the way that you diminish behaviors that you don't like, right? I know everybody's like, I'm using punishment more and more because I think it's valuable that people understand, like we kind of steal that word back from being like this dirty, dark, evil word, and it's not. In the behavioral world, punishment does not mean this evil thing. It means something that diminishes a behavior and hopefully completely eradicates it. So that would be my suggestion. Now, here's the caveat with that. So high level correction, press and hold for a couple seconds. Your dog's probably going to vocalize, probably going to make some noise. Then give your dog some time. See what he does with it. What most owners do is they try and correct, and they move up the dial, they go high, they do something, they experiment around, and then the dog vocalizes afterwards or whines afterwards, and the dog is kind of like hit its cycle, been corrected, and then it needs time to like de-escalate. So be sure to give your dog time to see where it's going to go with it. Now, that said, if you give your dog 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes and your dog is still like, then I would correct again. And then give your dog time again to see where he goes with it, right? So this is like hard stuff. This is not fun stuff. This isn't like pretty part of dog training. This isn't the stuff where you see us like flowing and dancing around and teaching dogs behaviors. This is about inhibiting stuff that makes owners and dogs unhappy, and oftentimes can get dogs sent to other places because people don't want to live with constantly vocalizing whiny dogs. So this isn't to say that the dog has to pay some ultimate price because of the inconvenience, but the owner and the dog are both uncomfortable. So we have to really keep that in perspective, that a few moments of discomfort in order to help a dog make a better decision in kind of the overall cumulative universal picture is definitely worth it. So if you're not comfy with it, don't do it. If you are comfy with it, give it a shot. And remember what I said about giving your dog time to de-escalate afterwards. And if you feel like that's too severe or too significant and you'd prefer to use a bonker, use a bonker. But if you keep getting the behavior over and over and over again, you're going to have to get creative about how do I get better results out of my dog. A whining dog constantly, that's really hard to deal with. And like I said, whining dogs are not happy dogs. So I hope that helps. I know it makes me sound like a really mean, bad person, but it's really about how do we make things best for the owner and for the dog so they can live together happily, and so the dog doesn't struggle with anxiety and weirdness and nervousness perpetually because we're too nervous or too afraid to actually share a correction that has value that can help the dog move forward. All right? Hope that helps. Oh, guys, the drawers, they're so soggy. Whew. And just brand new jeans. I just put them on too. It just seems so unfair. Okay, so this one is for Miss Morgan, and we're going to let her read it, and we're going to let her answer it. But it sounds like we've got a rottie blowing off e-collar corrections on walks. I think she can handle this. Laura, take it away.
Okay, question number 2. This is for me, so this is kind of weird, but this is for me. Hi guys, this is from Marco. Marco says, hi guys, long-time listener, first time asking a question. First, a quick thank you for all the hard work you do and a great view on training. The end goal to share it with the world to benefit everyone without expecting anything in return. Aw, thanks Marco. I have a 52-pound rottie and his behavior has improved tenfold since implementing more duration work and accountability. He's pushy and dominant and will test every boundary or command, although that's improving quickly. Wow, a rottie pushing boundaries? What? My biggest or slowest progress, should I say, is in the heel. He's prong and e-collar conditioned. I've used the e-collar mini 302 2 months ago. I'm still in the early stages. I started with the low stim protocols to show what position he'll be in, like a working level 6. He'll push past that point inside the house. In the backyard, he complies and follows. I've tried corrections and the low-level stim outside was underwhelming with minimal success. He'd drop back for a fraction of a second, then push edging forward past my knee. I fished a little and found that constant pressure on high, like a 65 in the beginning, has now dropped to 35, worked. He started to do the work himself and drop back and remain there much longer. A quick tap on the remote as a reminder doesn't faze him. That's some background information. I believe his battle is with the state of mind. He does get aroused and excited as we begin the ritual for a walk. He can be in a down inside the crate open door for 2 hours. Then when it's time to go, his breathing increases and that's his tell. I've corrected for this state, but he interprets this as I want him further back from the threshold door before we go outside, not that his excitement should stop. How do I give him a clearer message that it's his state of mind I want to change, not his position next to me? Thank you. I look forward to your responses and I'm awaiting your book eagerly. Okay, question 2. Thank you. Thank you to myself. Okay, Marco, this is a great question. Sorry, we've got Cujo, we've got the baby. We're in the beautiful park, just chilling. Marco, this is a great question. Okay, so you've got your 52-pound rottie. Things have improved since you've started adding duration work and all that good stuff. It sounds like you're pretty much on track to have like the perfect relationship with your dog. Now, that stuff where he's kind of pushing the envelope on the walk is super common, and I can picture it, I can so picture it with the rottie, especially when he's in the crate and kind of getting worked up right before you guys go out and the breathing increases and all that stuff. I can absolutely picture it. Now, what you've done in the backyard is a great kind of microcosm of what you're going to do out in the world. So in the backyard, you have kind of like, you have a nice heel, he's really focused on you. You said you started at pressure at like 65, and then now he's down to correction level at like 35, which is cool. Now in the yard, obviously you're going to have levels that are a lot lower than outside. So I just want to make sure that you're not comparing, you know, if you're doing work in your yard where there's less distraction, there's less excitement because you're not out with all the world and all the smells and all the dogs and people and sounds and all that. I just want to make sure you're using a little bit higher levels when you're out in the world as opposed to the yard. I assume you are though, because you're super savvy. The thing that I would definitely work on, it's a tough one in the crate when they're kind of waiting and then they get the tell that they're about to go for a walk, so they get all excited. Especially because you're correcting for that state of mind and he's just like backing up from the door, and I can picture it's kind of this like frantic, like, what do you want me to do? But their mind is like totally out of this world. What I would say is the thing we definitely need to work on are the thresholds. So when he's coming out of the crate, you want to correct for any sort of bursting out of the crate or anything like that. If you're correcting just for that state of mind, that's cool, but I always like to kind of put the correction to more of like an actual behavior. So he knows he's not supposed to burst out of the crate, so let's find a level that matters to him for bursting out of the crate so that he's thinking. We want him thinking about every moment, not just thinking about the walk and the impending excitement. Then when you get to the door, I want you to do the same exercise. I want you to walk up to the door. If he starts to push that threshold even just a little bit, you're going to correct him at a good level for that. I know the threshold feels like something small, and it's like, well, I can correct low for that just because it's just a threshold. But remember, what we're doing is we're kind of stopping that arousal before he gets outside and gets excited. So those 2 thresholds are really going to matter to me. The one right out of the crate, and then what you can do is you can have him on a leash. Cujo. You can have him on a leash when he's coming out of the crate. Have him on an e-collar. So you correct him on the e-collar, but you have him on the leash, and then you heel him really slowly, slower than you're probably used to going. Heel him up to the door. And then at the door, you're going to walk up to the threshold, correct him if he starts to burst through. So really the whole goal with your little rottie guy is to get him just to be thinking more. Thinking all the way up to the walk, so that when he gets out on the walk, he's a little bit more tuned in. Now, it's not going to be perfect. I can guarantee you it's going to take time with that, especially if he's like used to all of this, like, you know, this is how it goes. I'm in the crate. We break this pattern. This is the pattern. We get up to the door, and then it's excitement outside. It's going to take time with this, but I promise if you hang in there with this is the sort of stuff that over time, all of a sudden you'll start to see like, oh my gosh, I don't have to correct him at the crate threshold anymore quite as much. Or, Cujo, 9. Or, you know, when I get to the door, he just sits there and politely waits, and then we get outside and he does his thing and he's cool. So it's just going to take some time, but obviously I can see that you're super dedicated to this. So yeah, focus on those 2 thresholds. And then on the walk, you know, I think an obvious one is that your levels just might not be right for what you guys are doing on the walk. So you might need to go higher. You might, if you're at correcting, you know, if he's pushing and you're correcting at 35 and then he pushes again in 60 seconds later, you know that 35, it mattered maybe in that moment, but it didn't have lasting power. And the reason, you know, we don't want to just say, you know, just go higher. That's always the answer. Not at all. But I can guarantee you, you go higher and then it actually lasts and you correct your dog less over time. Does that make sense? So if you continue to just hit 35, 35, 35, 35, you might have to correct him for as long as you want to hang in with that. And a lot of people would just give up on that. The reason why we say go a little bit higher is because we want it to last. We want it to have effect down the line so that the dog's actually making the correction himself. We don't want to manage the dog for the rest of his life. So maybe that 35 is going to have to be a tap at 65. Who knows? 55, 95. I don't know. I don't know your dog. It may go, we've had dogs too before that. We've had to go higher to kind of like break that arousal and remind them, hey, we're on a walk. I know it's exciting, but you have to listen to me. And then all of a sudden they're correcting at like a 10 for any other little minor stuff if they ever need to be corrected. So you just have to mess with those levels, really watch your dog. Those thresholds are great. Walk very slowly from the crate or wherever he is to the front door, correct for that threshold, and really just hold him accountable. And it's going to take some time with that, but you know, I think it's totally worth it. I think you've seen the effects already with the work you've done already. So just time to kind of like fine tune this stuff. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Sean wrote me notes because he's like, you might need notes for these. And I didn't look at the notes. So maybe I'll look at the notes right now and see how close we got. Okay, hold on 1 second. Check the notes. One thing that he mentioned in the notes that I think I would definitely advocate for is 180s on the e-collar. So when you get out on the walk, you can do 180s. We have a video on it somewhere on our YouTube channel. But basically, you know, if your rottie's like totally like, I can picture him like looking everywhere, kind of like focused on things that he shouldn't be, like this little guy, big guy. So he's looking everywhere, he's excited, kind of let him get out ahead of you, and you're gonna give him give him some leash to let him like go out in front of you, and then you're going to pop the e-collar, whatever level. It could be lower, I'm not sure where it is for you guys, but maybe like the 35 is a great place to start. Pop the e-collar and turn the other direction. So he's like, oh shoot, I gotta listen. And then you go the other way and you do the same thing. Pop the e-collar, do these 180s, and it kind of tunes the dog in. You'll see the dog go from like looking everywhere to all of a sudden like kind of like looking up at you as he's walking. So that's another good one that you can try. Yeah, okay. Back to you, Laura. Okay. Question 3 comes from Tara. Tara says, I just don't know what to do about squirrels. I understand why I shouldn't let my GSD chase them from the yard, but I don't want them in my yard, and neither does my husband. They eat the fruit from the fruit trees. Are we harming our dogs by allowing this behavior in the yard? Is it possible to make it clear to the dogs that it's okay in this situation, but not when we're out? My husband has encouraged the GSD to chase the squirrels out of the yard, and now we have a 4.5-month-old GSD lab mix. He says that he's also okay with the puppy chasing them, and I just don't know if we should be allowing this. But we don't want the squirrels. Help. Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay, so thank you, Laura. Tara's got some squirrel issues. Dogs are having squirrel issues. Okay. So this is a challenging one because a lot of folks deal with squirrel stuff, right? So let's jump into this and see if we can't find some help. So the issue is Tara and her husband are trying to differentiate or make a decision about, are we allowed, because I think they've got it out for the squirrels, are they allowed to let the dogs chase the squirrels and try and like get the squirrels gone? But then they're having problems with the dogs being squirrel fascinated, squirrel obsessed on the walks. So can they do both? Can they have dogs that are eradicating the backyard of the squirrels, mass squirrel exodus, and still have dogs that are like walking polite, walking cool, see a squirrel and be like, yeah, you're not allowed in my backyard anymore? Or are they gonna have problems where the dogs have been conditioned to be like squirrel, 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 squirrel? Now, as a dog trainer, one of the things that we talk about a lot, because we see, and this one comes up so often, is dogs jumping on their owners and owners being okay with that. And they're like, but I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. And then we ask, well, are you okay with, your dog jumping on kids? Are you okay with your dog jumping on guests or grandma or something like that? And they're like, no, I don't want that. I want him, it's okay for him to jump on me, but I don't want him to jump on other people. Now you start to get into a complex area where you're starting to ask your dog to make distinctions about it's okay here and it's not okay here. And that is exceptionally, extremely, extraordinarily hard for a dog to do. And most dogs tend to fail. The best approach, and this will lead us back to squirrel land, but the best approach is to say no jumping. Not on me, even if I like it, and not on anybody else, because they probably won't like it. And that's how you create consistent clarity, non-confusion, dogs that are like, this is how I interact with people, I don't jump up. Rather than a mixed message of like, don't jump on them, you're gonna get yelled at, you're gonna get corrected, but you can jump on dad and mom. It's super unfair, right? So that brings us back to the squirrel thing, and I truly don't believe that you can let your dogs load up all day chasing squirrels and being in like maniacal squirrel land and then take them out on walks and have them be focused on you and not care about the squirrels. I love the idea. I get where you're coming from. I know what you want. I know you want to get those naughty critters out of your yard, but the fact of the matter is you're teaching your dogs to be squirrel mad, squirrel crazed. And then you're gonna say, when we're on walks, turn the craze off. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen unless you got some crazy dog that's like, I've never seen it before, but some crazy, amazing dog that's like, yeah, squirrels in the backyard, they're mine. Squirrels on the walk, I don't care about them. They're on neutral ground, right? Not my turf. I've never seen it. So let's go one way or the other. Either you allow your dogs to go after the squirrels in the yard and expect mayhem on the walks, or you say no more craziness in the backyard and you're gonna walk like ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen and ladies, or gentlemen and gentlemen. I don't know what kind of makeup you've got in your pack, but hopefully that makes sense. It's the only thing that's fair, and that's why I brought up the jumping thing, because it's one of the more common ones, and it does the same thing. It creates an unfair expectation born out of teaching your dog, like, it's okay here, it's not okay here. There are distinctions dogs can make. Dogs are very smart. They can make certain distinctions, but that one's a really, really hard one. So just to be fair to them, both the jumping and the squirrels, are hard ones. So I would say make your choice and live with it. Okay? Okay.
Okay, question number 4 comes from Kyocho. Says, hello guys, I have a question that I hope you will be able to help. I own a 4-year-old male terrier and have added another one, Jack, to the family approximately 1 year ago. My friend owns 2 of the litter mates of my 4-year-old. They're all males and have been hanging out and are very used to being together. However, whenever the 4 dogs are together, the 3 litter mates will attack Jack. Usually one of them will go after him and the others will follow. If one of them is not in the pack, they will not attack. They go after him only when the 3 of them are together. Mostly my dog will go after Jack and the other 2 litter mates will follow suit. Jack is thus terrified when the whole pack is together. He would not face them and always would hide in a corner. When we are out on walks, they are fine. This only happens in the house. In my household, when there are only the 2 of them, they are loving and they have no problems being together with each other. They play together, eat together, walk together. All of the dogs are crate trained and e-collar trained. Do you have any suggestions or advice on what we can start working on?
I think with all these hot lights and high-tech gadgetry, then my pants would be like semi-dry by now. But that ain't the case. Anyways, soggy drawers aside. Okay, so guys, Laura, thank you so much for reading question number 4. I hope you did a better job of pronouncing Kyojo, and that might just be Q. It might just be the first name, and then I'm adding, because usually we just go by first name. I'm gonna shake things up and just say Kyojo, because I think it sounds cool. So that's what I'm going with. Okay, so Kyojo has 4 dogs, Jack Russell, and then 3 other dogs, and what ends up happening is that his 3 other dogs are ganging up and pack attacking the Jack Russell. Just super uncool, guys. And I'm not just talking about 2, I'm not just saying this to Kyojo. I'm saying this to anybody. This is so creaky. I'm saying this to anybody that, you don't hear about this too often with, we've all heard about pack attacks, but in the house, it's kind of a rarity. Not that it doesn't happen, but like we don't get this question very often, and we certainly don't get this from clients very often. Typically, it's 1 or 2 dogs. Well, typically, I guess you need more than 1 dog. You get 2 dogs that are in a space with each other where they dislike each other, and typically that's where the friction comes from. And then you might get some dogs joining in if you've got more dogs. But this sounds much more like a concerted kind of like strategic deployment, like a strategic operation, a mission of the pack going after the Jack Russell. And so the Jack Russell's all freaked out, and as would I be if I was being pack attacked on a regular basis. So my suggestion is a little bit involved, and so it really depends on how important this is to you. And from your notes, it's pretty important. So I'm hoping that means you'll be willing to jump into this and really kind of find your way and find your answers. We've had people with much worse situations that have gone in, dove in, done their work, and ended up with great stuff. So it's absolutely possible. That said, I would e-collar train the 4 hooligans. Now, if the Jack Russell is also a hooligan, but he's like playing it on the down low and like setting everybody up, to get in trouble, I would also train him too. It's a ton of work. I get it. It's a shit ton of work because you've got 5 dogs. But, right? You picked the 5 dogs, so that's on you. So, that said, I would do e-collar training with all of those dogs, but especially the 4 naughties. I would do recall. I'd probably at least do the bare bones. The very bare bones with that would be teach a rock solid recall. If you need professional help, you can go to our website, www.thegooddog.net, and we have a trainer referral tab there. So you can either have professional help. If you're in the hood here with us in the area, you can always contact us. So, but if you don't decide to do it professional and have somebody come in, then it's on you. And there's plenty of resources out there in order for people these days. Like, I wish we had the same kind of information back in the day. I used to have to write hand letters to my girlfriends across like the seas, because I dated a lot of this, like totally, like I'm really like digressing. But like, yeah, I used to have to write hand letters to my girlfriends, or like $400 phone calls. So anyways, I digress. I have no idea how I got there, but I think we're talking about old school, right? So you're gonna have to go e-collar training with these 4 guys, and you're going to have to at least teach recall, place, and down. Those would be the 3 that I would like make non-negotiable. Now, if you want to teach them e-collar heel, that's fabulous. Sit, you want to work on thresholds, all that stuff, that's fabulous. I was making the comparison about like how much information's out available. See, I know it's all tied in. These days, you can basically train your dog without a dog trainer. There's so much video out there to help you, between me and Jeff Gelman and Blake Rodriguez and Tori Smith and Tyler Muto and other folks. It's just it's really, there's so much help out there if you want it, and if money's tight, then you know the trade-off. If you ain't got the dough, you got to have the time. So, all that said, and full disclosure about like my early romantic life, that it was all long-distance relationships. I don't know what that says about me. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people commenting on that. Careful, be nice. You can absolutely do this yourself if you want to. Recall, place, down. Mandatory. Now, once your dogs are conditioned, the 4 knuckleheads that are attacking are conditioned to that, then what I would start to look for is any moments where you see any one of those 4 scoundrels, those 4 hooligans, stare at your Jack Russell. Now, if your Jack Russell's running around like a maniac and like grabbing toys or like being totally out of its tree, that's going to be something you're going to have to address, and you're going to have to make sure you sort out, because it makes sense that a pack would go after somebody who's unstable. If he's a cool dude or she's a cool chick, then you have to go after the other 4, and that's where the e-collar training comes in. What do? You don't just recall them away. You don't just put them in place. You don't just tell them to down. That's how you create management. That's how you create an interruption or a blockage temporarily, but that's not how you create a permanent inhibition. That's not how you create, don't ever do that again. That's not how you create, that's bad, right? Just to keep it like really simple and clear. If you train your dogs on e-collar and you see any kind of like that, or I didn't even do like a good facial thing, like, correct, right there. Nail whatever dog that is that's staring at your Jack Russell. And I would also be really careful. I'd probably have long lines, like, this is serious stuff. So, I'm trying to like think about all the safety kind of protocols you could utilize. If you have long lines on these dogs, then that gives you the ability to control them if you do correct and if they do charge through that correction. But the real goal is that you catch them at the early stage of like loading up, looking at the other dog, correct, and the dog goes, I'm not supposed to be doing that. Okay, and then it relaxes. And hopefully it cuts off at the pass all the other dogs misbehaving and engaging in nasty stuff. Now, you correct one, and the other one of the 4, another one of the 4 goes, correct that dog. And if it starts going down the line, correct them all. Pop, pop, pop. right? You can get a e-collar that actually serves for dogs if you want to have it like nice thing around your neck, and you just like makes it real easy. So that's kind of the approach that I would go with if it was me, just because e-collar gives you so much control. Once you correct the dogs, then you can recall them away. Then you can put them in place. Then you can have them lay down. But everybody gets it backwards. Everybody just tries to use obedience to prevent problems. But you're not creating an inhibition about that problem. All you're doing is saying, be here. You're using a command to try and supersede or override the dog's behavior. And a lot of people will tell you, if you do that long enough, no, it's BS. You have to say no with a consequence that's attached to it, that the dog goes, whew, I don't want to do that anymore. Otherwise, they're going to end up probably killing your other dog. So that's my first and foremost game plan for you, e-collar training for your 4 knuckleheads. And if you don't have the money and you don't have the time to go through, all that stuff, then Google or YouTube Gary Wilkes bonker and get yourself a load of bonkers, make a bunch up, and second you see, this will cost you like $7, right? And some time watching videos. If you see one of your dogs loading after your other dog, then you say no and you huck that bonker at that dog, and if your aim is true, then that dog goes, whoa, I shouldn't be doing that, and then it creates the same kind of thing, same inhibition. Now, that all said, I'm going to try and wrap this up really quick. Anytime that you have multiple dog homes, structure, rules, leadership, accountability are non-negotiables for keeping the peace, keeping harmony. If you let this be loose, if you let it be the Wild West, even with great tools, you'll probably still run into trouble. So you got to own, if you're going to bring 2, 3, 4, 5 dogs into your home, you got to own the responsibility that comes with that. And that means you've got to step up to the plate and you've got to find your answers. And you've got to be the kick-ass leader that makes sure that this doesn't happen again and that your dog is safe. That's pretty much it. So there's no magic bullets here except for leadership, structure, rules, accountability, consequences, and then you finding what's your best method to go about creating that. That's about it. Okay, guys. So Laura is going to close this one out. She's got, looks like Leanie. And Leanie's got a little bit of a similar situation. She's got 3 dogs that are fighting, bullying, just in a bad space. And, she talks about, alpha dogs and how things have switched back and forth. There's only one alpha dog. That's you. That's your family. There's no alpha dog in your home. And yes, there are dogs that are more dominant. There are dogs that are more pushy. There are dogs that are more confident. But I don't care about that. What I care about is that you're the only alpha dog in your freaking home. And that should be crystal clear to your dog. All my dogs, they all have different temperaments. And they all, like you know who's more confident here, who's more confident here, who's more confident here. But guess what? When it comes down to it, I'm the only one. And that needs to be your gig. So, with that little tidbit, I'm going to let Laura Morgan take it away and see what she comes up with some answers. Hopefully she doesn't just copy my answers from last time. That wouldn't be fair. All right, take it away.
Okay, question 5 comes from Leanie Levitt. Leanie says, hey, we have 3 rescues, a Rhodesian Ridgeback mix, 5 years old, a Pit mix, 4.5 years old, and a German Shepherd mix, 2.5 years old. We got them in the order listed above. So the Rhodesian, the Pit, then the German Shepherd. My Pit was happy with my Rhodesian being the alpha until we got the 3rd, the German Shepherd. When we got him, the 2nd, the Pit, took an extra liking to the Shepherd and appeared to become his protector. While doing this, he also became the new alpha. My Ridgeback gave up the alpha role. He will literally turn his head as he allows the Pit to take any bone away. Even though the Ridgeback is now submissive, the Pit still bullies him often. The Ridgeback will walk away to avoid a fight, but the Pit will follow him. Eventually, the Ridgeback just protects himself. Of course, this happens within just seconds. We are looking for major advice because this is heartbreaking, stressful, dangerous, and unfair. Thanks so much. Okay, Leanie, so this is a great question. They're all good questions, I mean, really. But this one is good because I think something we see a lot of owners do is kind of categorize their dogs when they have more than one dog. So categorize, okay, she's the alpha, he's the alpha, this one is submissive to the other, this one lets the other do whatever, that sort of thing. And then when someone else comes into the pack, another dog or a baby comes in, or, you know, another person, a boyfriend, girlfriend, then maybe the order of the pack changes and the alpha dog becomes, you know, the submissive one, and so on and so forth. And there's kind of like a change or an upset in the system. And I think a lot of owners will see this and be like, it was so good before, and now this is created, and there's problems now coming because of this new thing, whatever. And our stance on this really is that there should be no alpha except you. And not saying that you should be this alpha, like walking around like an alpha, but you should be the one calling the shots. Because I think what a lot of people think of when they think of their dogs being like an alpha is they think of their dog as the one that calls the shots. Like you with your 3 dogs. The Rhodesian before was considered the alpha probably because he was like, this is where we go, this is where we sleep, if you're eating a bone, I can take it and it's no problem, that sort of thing. And then now that Rhodesian's actually stepping back and letting the pit do that kind of work, which is really just bullying when it comes down to it. In the wild, when you have alpha dogs, they're not just like walking around bullying, taking things and whatever. You just have a dog who's more of like the leader. And that's what we're looking for you to do. Especially with the domestic household, with these strong breed dogs, we don't need them running the show. We need you running the show. So it may have seemed like before, like the Rhodesian was in charge and kind of, you know, creating the balance, and then this German Shepherd came in and caused an upset in that and caused the Rhodesian to kind of lay back. But the reality is, and I don't know the situation totally, but from what we see, the reality is maybe before the situation was just kind of like at bay, maybe like things just looked better. The Rhodesian had a little bit more of a bigger personality and the pit hung back. But there might have been some tensions building, that the pit might have had this kind of bullying quality before, but it just didn't show itself. And then all of a sudden the Shepherd came along, and maybe the Shepherd has maybe, again, I don't know the situation, so I'm just throwing some things out there, maybe has been not the greatest influence, and the pit has taken that on as like, oh, okay, well, he's like this, and I'm gonna show this side of me too. Also the Shepherd, which we see a lot of Shepherds have some anxiety issues and issues with like impulse control. So that can make dogs, lots. There's a dog chasing a ball and Cujo thinks it's time. So all in good fun. So he might have, like the Shepherd might be bringing out some anxiety in your pit as well, which can manifest itself in different ways. We've seen, you know, dogs when when a more anxious, kind of like on edge dog is brought into the pack, a dog that would normally be kind of submissive starts to act bratty and like a bully, which it sounds like your dog's starting to do, or they can start acting more anxious and skittish and nervous, and that's how they take that on. However it is, maybe your pit's stuff is manifesting in kind of more of a bully way. So he's bullying the Rhodesian around, he's kind of doing this, like that stuff where the Rhodesian will walk away and he'll go after him and then they'll start that fight. That's super uncool behavior. The Rhodesian's like, I want no parts of this, and the pit's like, oh yeah, yes you do. So my guess is that the attitude in the Shepherd, which we didn't hear much about, but the attitude in the Shepherd is causing a little bit of an upset in the balance, not necessarily making the pit the alpha, but causing, you know, adding some energy in there that's not so great for that pit. So what I would say for this, I mean, you have obvious kind of management stuff, like if there's brawls going on between the pit and the Rhodesian, it's not fair to the Rhodesian because he's trying to walk away and trying to mind his own business. There's definitely some management stuff like keeping them separate, you know? So having like, okay, one part of the house or one part of the yard where the Rhodesian gets to go out and do his thing, and then one part of the yard where the Pit gets to go out and do his thing, and they're not really commingling at this time. Cujo, he wants to play. Okay, I just had to reposition the boy because we have an off-leash dog over there, so I just want to make sure everything was cool while I'm paying attention to the camera and not to the dog. So anyway, so I think the biggest note I can give you guys for this sort of thing is that you have to train your dogs. I know that sounds really simplistic because we're a dog training channel, but you do. You have to get all of those dogs into training. So that means, I mean, you could obviously do the separation stuff, but that's only going to last a while, and that's kind of annoying. So I would say, you know, e-collar program, you have 3 big breed guys, and if you're trying to you're trying to have them all cohabitate together, we definitely want to get them all in a much more respectful space. So you can go to our free YouTube videos, or you can buy our DVD, link up there, ding ding ding, and you can do full e-collar program with the dogs. That would be starting with prong collar training, so place, sit, down, heel, all that stuff, and then layering the e-collar on top, doing tons of structure. It's all in the PDF if you buy that, if you buy our DVD. It's also all throughout Sean's blogs and our free YouTube videos. We talk about this stuff. But what you're really going to want to do is just create a nice foundation of training for all the dogs, so they're all listening to you, they're all respectful of you, independent of each other, and then you start integrating them. And once they're starting to get integrated, once they start to get integrated, then they have like a really nice foundation just with you. I hope that makes sense. You don't want to deal with this fighting stuff. You want to get them all in a really good space on their own. Don't worry about correcting, about fighting or anything like that. We just don't want the fights to even be there. But I gotta go. The baby is causing a scene. So no alpha, get those dogs trained on e-collar. You definitely have a obligation to do that with these big breed dogs. It's just not fair to that Rhodesian who's getting bullied around. Okay, bye.
Okay, gang, so that's it. Q&A Saturday, another wrap. I mean, we're moving into the, what are we, 137. It's like, if I could do the math, you know, we're approaching 3 years of this baby. That's unbelievable. So, and I know some folks have mentioned something about the podcast. Podcast might have been interrupted. I'm checking on that. There's a lot of technological stuff going on as we're getting the digital book out and da 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 da. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we're juggling, and you know, I think we'll probably be up to speed pretty quick. If podcasts are still missing, we'll be up to speed with them in the next couple of weeks or so, because I know a lot of folks really enjoy listening to them. So if they're driving or training dogs or hanging out, whatever, or on a hike or something, they can take us along with them and enjoy us without actually having to like focus and do all that stuff. So hopefully the podcasts, if they are currently, and I'm not even 100% sure, if they're currently unavailable, they should be available very soon, and we'll hopefully have them all caught up. Big stuff coming, guys. Big stuff coming. And I'm telling you, that audiobook is going to be cool. It's going to be really cool. So excited to get that out to you. Excited to record it. And I really, really, truly hope that you love it. And I'm deeply, deeply, deeply honored that there's been so much positive response to the book. It's just been overwhelming. And so for a little, you know, the little business that could, we call it, that it's managed to do so well with this book and the DVDs and everything, It's really special, and we owe it all to you guys showing up here every week or every day and reading content and interacting, and so we appreciate the heck out of you guys. So anyways, until next week, you guys have a really awesome time. Take good care of yourselves, take good care of your dogs, and that doesn't mean spoiling them. Take good care of your dogs. Make sure that you give them what they need: structure, rules, leadership, accountability, consequences, all that stuff that's not always fun. That's how you keep them in a good space. All right? Talk to you soon. Have a good, safe week. Bye.
Okay, guys, thanks for sticking with this. I'm gonna go work on the baby naps again. Love you.